Hello, my name is Ugo, and this is the umpire for trailing zeros in a factorial. I did this assignment last night, or yesterday. I don't remember all the time. I think it was like evening, but so let's see, revise through the problem. Okay. So this is the solution I was able to come up with after a little bit of time spent in trying to understand what the mathematical trick would be. I knew that there was going to be a trick because the constraint was 10 to the 4th, and if n ever got that high, well, that would not work, especially in C++. I'm not sure if that would work in Python, but 10,000 factorial would be too large for long. And I don't think there's another. Is there a larger data type than long? I don't think there is, but okay, maybe unsigned, or I guess I could do int 128-bit, but that's likely not the solution. And on top of that, logarithmic time complexity follow-up question kind of indicated that there was a trick that you can do. So it would be very inefficient to try doing it the brute force method because of that. It'd probably just be impossible to run with a good solution or as a solution in LeetCode. So in trailing zeros, all we're trying to do is find the number of zeros that are at the end. There is a property in factorials that states that all numbers before 5 factorial will not have any leading or trailing zeros, because once you get to 5, you get to the point where you have the multiples 2 and 5, and that gives you 10. And if you're multiplying 10 to anything, you'll have a trailing zero. So that's the math property, that's like the trick. It was just how to implement this that became a problem. So now we have to realize how many times will there be some form of this number. And that's when I realized that numbers like 4 times 20 would fit this criteria, because if you split them up, it'll actually be the same thing as 2 times 5 times 2 times 5, and then times, let's see, so 2 and 2, that's the 4, 5, oh wait, would the 5 work again here? I don't think it would. Maybe this wasn't a good example, sorry. I'm just gonna put 100. So it would be 2 times 5 times 2 times 5. Right? Or would it be plus? I'm sorry. But essentially what's happening is you're basically going to split many different numbers that are multiplying in it to be some form of this, and all of these together is basically equal to one trailing zero. So because of this, and factorials being the product of that factorials being the product of n, and the factorial of n being the product of n times the factorial of the previous number, will allow us to know that we're basically going to have a bunch of multiples of 2 and 5 up to n, and because 2 is a smaller number than 5, we know that 2 or multiples of 2 will occur more frequently than multiples of 5. So with this, we now know that we had to track the number of multiples of 5 in the range of n. And that lowers our problem from having to, or that removes the possibility of integer overflow, because we're only going to be going up to the number n. That's the largest number that we can possibly have in this whole problem is n, because all we're going to be doing is looking for multiples of 5 within it. And yeah, because, well, multiples of 5 will eventually, or 2 will happen more often, because there's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And then for 5 within that range, there's only 5 and then 10. So we know that we'll have more multiples of 2, so we don't have to worry about that. All we need to do is check how many multiples of 5 are there in this numbers range. And because of that, we will know how many trailing zeros there will be, because 2 will always be there to make sure that it can have a leading trailing zero. So yeah, and for a case like 25, if you find a number of multiples of 5 that can fit into 25, so that's basically what we're going to be doing, is using division, because 25 or something divided by something will give you the product. So n divided by 5 will give you the number of times 5 can go into n, and that's the number that we're looking for. However, when we divide 25 by 5, we'll get 5, and 5 can be divided by 5 again. So this means that there's more than just this initial amount of multiples that can go in for this. Because of the factorial, we had to check the repeats. So we had to loop through it to make sure we get all of them. And that's why, rather than doing counter increment, so rather than doing counter plus plus, we do plus equal n. Because after this, we find a number of times n will fit into, or 5 will fit into n, and then we just add that to the counter. And then if there still is more things that can be added into the counter, then we'll just keep checking for it. So we're going to find all the factors that way. That was the issue I was having originally, where oh wait, no, that was me trying to do with a log, because I thought that was the issue. But that was the issue I had originally, where I had a counter plus plus rather than the counter plus equal n. This would give us our logarithmic time complexity. It's very efficient. If we look at what's it called, Python tutor, it's 28 steps to handle both of the edge cases. So we have an edge case of 0, and we have the edge case of 10 to the power of 4, which is the maximum in the constraint. So if we look at it, we have only 28 steps, and from 10,000, the maximum possible number that could be put into this problem by LeetCode, it would only be up to 21 steps. So we would just get through it, and then look at how quickly that just dropped the number. So we went from 10,000 down to 2,000. We repeat another 5 that we divide by it from it. It's 400 now. The counter is up to 2,400. 400 divided by 5. We keep going. We keep going. We keep going. The integer division will get rid of the decimals, because, you know, we can't handle that. Even if it's like not perfectly fitting into 5, it's fine. And then once we get to n equals 3, n cannot, there are no number of n, or there are no trailing zeros at that point. And that's what the condition states, basically. It's just going until you're at a point where n is so small that there is no trailing zeros, because before 5 factorial, you will not have the things necessary, or the numbers necessary, to make a multiple of 10. And that's when you stop, the counter is at the number, and that's 2,499. And that's when you would just, oh, I forgot to print it, but it's fine. But yeah, that's the factorial of trailing zeros. I hope that explanation wasn't too long. It's 10 minutes, okay. But yeah, right, I have this right here. Sorry, I didn't look at it. But yeah, so this is basically what happens. We have another 5 here, and we're just going to go back right here. And we're going to count the number of 5s that can fit in there. Boom. We have 6, which is one of the test cases, I'm pretty sure. So if I put 25 here as the n and we run it, it will be 6. Yep. So, yeah, it's a lot better than manually calculating the factorial and then going for it after that. And it has logarithmic time complexity because you're basically just like cutting down the number rapidly with the n divided by 5 part. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye.